شكو ماكو شباب، وياكم AGM 4K أحمد مهدي. وبهذا الفيديو عندنا لقاء ويا بيل غيتس مؤسس شركة مايكروسوفت. أهلا بيك بيل غيتس. فأنا أول سؤال أريد أسأله إليك، وأتوقع هواية من الناس هم يريدون يسألوك نفس هذا السؤال اللي عن الخطاب اللي حكيته بتيد تولك بسنة 2015. وهذا الخطاب أنت توقعت به مرض الكورونا فيروس اللي هسه منتشر. وبهذا عالم الانترنت، عالم الناس تعبر برأيها، انتشرت شائعات واخبار شائعة بانه تقول بانه انت سويت وصنعت هذا الفيروس حتى تثبت للناس بانه كلامك كان صحيح، وانه حشك دائما يكون صحيح ولازم الناس تاخذه بكلام وبدرجة عالية جدا. فسؤالي هو، الخطاب مالتك كان عن الكورونا فيروس بذاك الوقت ب 2015، كنت تقصد الكورونا فيروس لو كان كلام افتراضي وبعدين صار حقيقة؟
Well, I didn't know specifically that it'd be coronavirus and that it would hit in late 2019. But the goal of the talk was to encourage governments to make the investments so we could respond very quickly and keep the case numbers very, very low. And so sadly, this is not a case where, I feel like, hey, I told you so. Because we didn't use that time when it was clear as the biggest threat to kill millions of people, to have the diagnostic standing by, to be ready to ramp up a vaccine factory. A few things were done. Some countries, our foundation funded some work that will help with the vaccines now, will help with the diagnostics, but most of what was called for, particularly in a New England Journal of Medicine article I did that went into way more specifics than I could in a short TED Talk, those things didn't get done, and so that's why it's taking us a long time to get our act together faced with this threat.
زين، هسه أنا عندي سؤال ثاني. هذا سؤال ثاني عن المعلومات اللي عندك. سؤال انتابني شخصيا، انت كمنظمة بيل غيتس، كمنظمة غير حكومية، شلون عندك هيج معلومات مهمة وقيمة، وعرفت بانه انت لازم تتخذ اجراء بخصوص هني الشغلات، الامراض وهاي الشغلات، والحكومات والمنظمات الصحية المعنية بهذا الخصوص يمكن ما كانوا يدرون أو صرفوا النظر عن الموضوع؟ فشنو اللي صار بما أنه أنت عندك تواصل ويا هاي الحكومات ويا هاي المنظمات؟
Well, there are lots of individuals who were as worried as I was. People like Dr. Fauci, who've been through various epidemics. And so when we had Ebola, Zika, SARS, MERS, we were lucky that they didn't transmit very easily. They weren't these respiratory viruses where somebody who's not very symptomatic and is still walking around can spread the disease, in some cases, to literally dozens of people. So the respiratory transmission, particularly because world travel is so intense, that's where I show the simulation in that speech and say, this keeps me up at night, more than even war, which is no small thing. And yet, in terms of being systematic about, okay, let's run a simulation and see how would we reach out to the private sector for tests or ventilators, and what kind of quarantine would we do? As we enter into this, we haven't practiced at all. And so you can see it's, every state is being forced to figure things out on their own. And it's very ad hoc. It's not like when a war comes and we've done, 20 simulations of various types of threats, and we've made sure that the training, communications, logistics, all those pieces fall into place very rapidly.
فبما انه انت هسه حاليا بموقف الخبير بهذا الشيء، فمنظماتك كانت مختصه بمحاربه الامراض ومساعده المرضى، وكنت مركز على أفريقيا، وتتعامل مع دكاترة وعلماء مختصين بالأمراض الانتقالية والأمراض المعدية. وهذا حاليا فيروس كورونا الآن منتشر، فما هي نظرتك وشنو هي الإجراءات اللي لازم نتخذها كمواطن أو كقادة أو ككبار الدولة؟
Well, the main tools we have right now are the behavioral change, the social distancing, which often means staying at home most of the time, and the testing capacity to identify who in particular needs to get isolated, and then testing their contacts to make sure that we can catch it so early that a lot of people who get sick don't infect anyone else. Now, so our foundation is engaged in projecting what's going to go on, the modeling. Our partner IHME is, telling each state what they should think about in terms of ventilators and capacity. Further on out, the work we're doing now to find a therapeutic, a drug to reduce the disease, to cut the deaths down, we're hopeful that even in 6 months, some of those will have been approved. But the ultimate solution, the only thing that really lets us go back completely to normal and feel good about sitting in a stadium with lots of other people, is to create a vaccine and not just take care of our country, but take that vaccine out to the global population, and so that we have vast immunity, and this thing, no matter what, isn't going to spread in large numbers.
زين، هسه اكو دول لحد الان ما متخذه اي اجراءات، فمثلا اذا هاي الدوله ما عندها اصابات ما متخذه اي اجراءات وراحت لدوله اخرى مصابه، او انتقل واحد من دوله مصابه الى دولته الغير مصابه، فشنو اللي لازم يصير؟ اكو دول حد الان ما متخذه اي اجراءات بخصوص هذا الشيء، ولا مانع الطيران، وعندهم الامور كلها ماشيه طبيعي. فشو كلامك عن هذه الدول أو لهذه الدول؟
Well, sadly, at some level of wealth, there'll be countries that no matter how hard they try, they will have a widespread epidemic. And so, again, sadly, the richer countries that do contain the epidemic will not allow people from those countries to come in, unless they are quarantined or tested or prove they're immune. And so this is going to stop people going across borders very dramatically these next few years till we get to that full vaccination. Within the United States is different because we're not going to partition the country. And so therefore we are all in it together. We can't do what we're going to do with foreign nationals, which is reduce the numbers a lot and have very strict screening there. We're not going to have at every state border, some complex quarantine center. And so the whole country needs, even when you have small numbers, because those can exponentiate to big numbers so quickly, the doubling time is like 3 days when you're still behaving in the pre-epidemic way. So, each country, has to get the entire populace, even some who initially resisted, maybe for very good reasons, because the economic effect on them is strong. So this is powerful medicine, but if you take a big dose of it earlier, you don't have to take it for nearly as long.
زين، انت توقعت هذا المرض، خلينا نقول احتمال ان انت شفت تاريخ البشر وشفت بانه دائما تجي امراض تهاجم الانسان وتواجه الانسان، حتى بالسنين الفائته بالقرن الماضي هم نفس الشيء صار، اكو امراض تجي تهاجم البشريه وتهاجم الانسان، فيمكن توقعت بانه راح يصير اكو فد حدث مشابه بنفس الاسلوب ونفس الطريقه راح يصير بالسنوات الجايه. فسؤالي هنا، عندك فد معلومات احنا نحتاج نعرفها؟
Well, this is a naturally caused epidemic, and as bad as it is, it looks, if you have reasonable treatment, to have a 1% fatality. There could be epidemics that are worse than that, including ones that aren't naturally caused, that are a form of bioterrorism. But one thing I feel good about is this is such a big change to the world that this time it won't be like Ebola, which was just there in West Africa or Central Africa. This time, the tens of billions to have the diagnostic standing by, the vaccine manufacturing standing by, this time we will get ready for the next epidemic.
شباب نشكر بيل غيتس على حضوره هاي الحلقة وعلى المعلومات اللي انطانا اياها بهاي الحلقة. فإلى هنا وانتهت الحلقة. أشوفكم إن شاء الله بالحلقات القادمة، واللي ما مشترك خليه يشترك، وإلى اللقاء.